Hello everybody, I'm Ard and welcome to another episode of Minecraft Enigmatica 2 Expert. Last time, we set up automation to make the Angelus so we can get one step closer to making the creative tank, and this time we're going to make its partner ingredient, the Benitoite, or however you pronounce it. I really have no idea from the word. But to be clear, I've been super dreading this one because this one, unlike Angelus, is all magic components. And while some of these are easy, some of these are not. So let's discuss some decisions I made from the start here. So there's certain things that we just need to supply a whole bunch in the system because we only need to make like 100 of these total. So for the Botania components, the Dragonstone, Mana Pearl, Elementium Ingot, Mana Diamond, and Pixie Dust, I'm just supplying those. I'm just dumping them into the Mana Pool or the Elven Portal and supplying them. The Elementium Ingots I've got coming from my mob farm, so those shouldn't be a problem. Up here, the Nature's Pylon, the main thing you need is more Mana Diamonds, so we've got that covered. I just need to wait for my pools to recharge because they don't hold that much and I can get the whole thing stocked up and we're good to go, but we've got some time to kill. The next one up is the Stardust from Astral Sorcery, which is just pulverized ingots that we have coming in from our laser base, so we've got these provided as well pretty easily. So that covers all of the super easy steps. The next step up to the easy but not super easy ones are the Resonating Gem and the glass panes for the colored lens, although this colored lens itself is harder to make because it's actually pretty easy to automate the Starlight Infuser, at least in this pack. All you need are a pair of mechanical users and an item collector and that chalice to provide the liquid starlight to the structure. And you want the chalice anyways because it's super annoying to manually refill those pools with the liquid starlight. But all you do is in one mechanical user here, set this to activate block with item, set it to right click, and set it to random slot, and just toss however many you want in here of either aquamarines or the glass panes. And it will just start right clicking them into this. In the other one, same thing, but set it to upper left slot. You could probably use random and it wouldn't be an issue, and then just toss the Resonating Wand in, and it will just start chain activating them. And it'll just repeat into infinity doing this until you're out of materials. Easy peasy. So next up, we probably should discuss the blood magic components because they are not insignificant. We need a couple different things. One, we need these 2 runes, which aren't too hard to do. The main thing is they require slates of different sizes, as well as these blood tanks, which require a bunch of blank runes, which are just a bunch of blank slates, as well as needing large bloodstone tiles, which require weak blood shards, which we normally have to farm manually using the bound blade. We also need this for the draft of Angelus in a minute. So much like the Astral Sorcery setup, we have this setup with mechanical users as well. You might notice there's a dark glass pane sitting there now. It's on the back side of a mechanical user because the mechanical user lets through light. But when I turn this on now, inside here is the bound blade set to generic click with the left click to attack with the bound blade. And when that kills mobs here that are sitting on top of the spike, inside this vacuum chest are a bunch of weak blood shards with a filter to only allow them in. So I now have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those weak blood shards sitting inside my main inventory. I don't bother providing them here because I don't want to leave this running because it eventually will fill up and just spam the world with a bunch of entities. And that's fine. We've got more than enough. So that was also easy. In slightly less easy news, we do have some changes to the blood altar. You might notice the boxes are moved around and things are set up a little bit differently. That's because I was just trying to make it look pretty and hide the pieces a bit. But if we come back behind it, you can see that the setup's not all that different. There's still the switch to turn it on and off. Behind here, there's still a conduit to the chest. The chests now hold 1 stack of each of the basic slates here with a downgrade to make sure it only can do 1 stack. This holds the ethereal slates. This can hold up to 8 stacks, and this holds living rock up to 8 stacks as well. This is the main thing that just turns it off when it runs out. Back here in the very back, against the altar, the conduit, if we click into it, you can see that it has 2 filters. On extract, we have it set up to say, do not extract living rock. Pull everything else out, but not living rock. And on the other side, we have a limit item filter that says, put in 1 single living rock at a time into the inventory. So the way that this works now is living rock gets injected into it. If there's any room for blank slates here, it will then extract the blank slate and put it into this chest. If the blank slates are full, it will do the reinforced, then the imbued, then the demonic. Failing any of those, it will then make ethereal slates and put them into the other drawer. And it just constantly runs. So I have this kind of connected up to my AE2 system just because I can turn this on and off as I need it to be, and I do need enough room that this can be problematic. I might need to increase the limited box to a stack of 8 stacks of 8. I am using enough blank slates to make the blank runes that's kind of problematic, so we might have to do something about that in a little bit, but right now it's not an issue. There is one more thing I want to say about blood magic slate production. If you look at the guides for it, a lot of people will say to use the native ones for Blood Magic, which has a fairly good wireless routing system for items. It really does. It's right here. It's not even all that hard to set up, although the documentation on it's pretty shoddy. But I think it's broken in 1.12, or at least the version that's in Enigmatica. At no point could I get it to output only a single living rock to the altar. I couldn't get it to work at all, and I spent way too much time trying to get it to work. So if you're doing this and you're playing along for whatever reason, maybe use a conduit instead, just because it's easier and it works without having to think about it. So that takes care of the ethereal slate and these two runes. That brings us to the next blood magic component, the draft of Angelus. And we've made this before. This wasn't actually too bad to make manually, but it has some complications. It does need the weak blood shard. It requires fermented spider eyes, which we didn't do before, but isn't too bad. The main thing it needs is mushrooms, which we weren't growing before. But I made the Nature's Essence seeds, so we can now create mushrooms on demand, both this and the red one, which we also need, because it's used in the antiseptic. And then this requires plant oil, which is just one of the complications, because it requires multiples of a specific item. And then the neurotoxins is just pufferfish. So the way that this works, though, is that we pump items from an enemy interface into this crate, which then exports them into the alchemy table. Items have to be put in the side and then extracted out of the bottom. Inside the table, an orb lives here at all times, and this is where the problems start happening, because you notice that there are these 6 slots and the 1 output slot. There are 2 issues with this. 1, if items can be pushed into one of these 6 slots, it will push items into these 6 slots. 2, they will also stack items in these slots. So for the first one, the plant oil recipe, I solved this by just sending it 2 stacks of potatoes and a stack of bone meal to fill up all of those slots. It makes 64 at a time, but it does solve the problem. Which tails into the other problem we have, though, because as I said, it will fill up all 6 of these slots. So if we need to make the neurotoxin, it will put pufferfish here. But then if it tries to make the antiseptic as well, it will then start filling these slots with the antiseptic items, and then it will break the whole thing. You can get around this by setting up multiple tables, which wouldn't have been hard to do. I could have done that pretty easily. I chose not to. And I realized, as with the Botania items, I only need like 100 of some of these, if that many at all. So I'm just going to run them linearly, one at a time. I'll do all the neurotoxin, all the antiseptic, all the plant oil, and then all of the drafts. And then I can either make all the drafts, or I can just leave that as part of the normal automation, and it won't actually be a problem. So I'm calling that done. So before we get to the last couple of items in the ring, let's talk about the Gaia Spirit in the center, because this you get from fighting the Gaia Spirit from Botania, which, to the best of my knowledge, is not automatable. But if you fight the Gaia Spirit too, it drops 16 of them, so getting the 100 or so we need was not hard, because it turns out Draconic Evolution is super, super overpowered, especially when you have the gear actually leveled up. As you see behind me, you might notice that I have most of the relics up there now. Other than the Ring of Odin, which if you saw my health bar earlier, you might notice my cards are a different color now. It's because of the ring, which I'm wearing. Right there. So the Gaia Spirit was not actually a problem. Which leads us to the last 3 pieces, which are kind of a problem. The colored lens and the complex arcane mechanism. And I said 3 because this requires the simple arcane mechanism. And these are both solved by modular machines. So in this case, we need the Starlight crafting engine, which can automatically produce these. We just need to pump in liquid Starlight in the raw materials, which we have plenty of all of these now, although I do need to make some more illumination powder. But turns out you can do this in the Starlight crafting engine as well, although this requires niter, which unfortunately we still have to provide manually from Thaumcraft, but I can pump a bunch of materials into my Thaumatorium to make those, just like I'm making the alchemical brass that we're going to need. But the reality is we need to make 2 multi-block structures to create this. In this case, the Starlight crafting engine looks like an Astral Sorcery temple. That said, because this is modular machines, I'm kind of hoping that this does not actually require access to the sky. I'm gonna try to put it into a compact machine just due to how big it is. The other thing is it required a second iridescent altar, this thing right here, which required converting all of the other ones back up from the start, back all the way to the luminous altar. This was only a problem for the second step because you need to create a different structure than what we already have in our base. The third step, the celestial altar, we could turn into the iridescent on the old iridescence platform still, even though it has extra pieces on it, it's still counted. But it was a little annoying to make. Alright, so the good news is this absolutely works inside a compact machine. It has no problems without access to the sky. There are a couple things you should be aware of while building this that confused me a little bit and can make for a mess on accident. First, this area in the front right here is laid out differently than all of the other sides. It sticks out one bit further. So like you see how there's that edge right there in the front, and that's not here on the sides. 2. These stairs on the corners right here and on the top, if you look at the recipe in JEI, in particular if you look at the flat version, which is how I was doing it, these stairs look almost identical to marble bricks. And there's no real indicator otherwise. So if that's how you end up putting it together, maybe be aware that you will run out of your bricks, so have exact numbers just so you don't make mistakes. The other thing is, it doesn't seem to be fussy about other things being within its structure. I do have this ender tank for liquid Starlight to pipe into the liquid input there, and it doesn't have any complaints that it's sitting over there. So now all I have to do is hook this up to my AE2 system and put some cables in, and we should be good to go to craft the 2 items we need, which are the purple lens and the illumination powder to be able to make it. Alright, got this set up properly, had to move my tunnel over to the correct side of this structure because I put it in the wrong spot originally, and added the recipes. Now if we come in here, you can see that this is craftable and this is craftable, and I've clearly tested it, so this all works now. So that's good. Now though, I need to make another modular machine, and hopefully I have room in here for it. But oh boy. Because this is the Thaumcraft Arcane crafting engine, and it's got some stuff we've never made before in it. So if you look in the list here, we need order crystals, which we haven't done, which thankfully are just an easy infusion. We need stabilizers, which we don't have the recipe for at all, so we need to figure that out. We also need redstone inlays, which same problem, so I've got to go do some research. But I think once I get that sorted, we can do pretty much everything else here. And hopefully I can never touch Thaumcraft again except to go make the last quest item at some point, which I don't want to do either. Anyhow, let's go figure this out, I guess. So the research ended up being pretty easy. I already had it open in the book, I just needed to unlock it, so I had to do one pass of research on the table to get it open. So that was easy enough. It did, however, require a ton of sub-combines to do, which that was annoying, and it's all stuff that can be done in the Arcane workbench, which I guess we should go make, and then never use to do any of this stuff, because I don't want to do Thaumcraft. Alright, so I finally got this set up now. It all works properly. If you come in here, you can see that I've already auto-crafted a couple of complex arcane mechanisms, and this is all good. So I think we're about ready to go set up the crafting core and go make the items. This fog is why I hate Thaumcraft. I generated some warp while I was doing this, and it cursed me. So it'll go away eventually, but it's annoying in the meantime. At least nothing's attacking me this time. Anyhow, let's give it a try and make sure it works. Let's kick one off and see how this works. Here come the items. Everything's populating just like the Angelus site one does. And we're good to go. And there it goes. So, looks like we finally have this step. The only thing left to do to make the creative tank, other than a whole bunch of miscellaneous liquids that we're going to have to make, is fight the Chaos Guardian. And I don't want to do that. So I think it's time to call it a day, though. If you found this episode interesting and entertaining, please consider leaving a like or subscribing if you're new. As always, I'm Ard. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.